For years, Frank explored and mapped caves throughout the world, including participation in cave surveys at Mammoth Cave National Park, Carlsbad Caverns National Park, Channel Islands National Park, and Lava Beds National Monument. Today, he enjoys using his science background and interpretive guiding skills to help people make personal connections to the special places, unique stories, and priceless resources of Point Reyes National Seashore. Please welcome Frank Binney.
Everybody. So I'm going to start sharing my screen, and hopefully, I like that little clap up there, Alexa. Hopefully I'll show up in like the corner here. Let's see. There we go. Great. So I know a lot of the people that are here have been out to Point Reyes and seen the elephant seals, but we also have people calling in from other parts of the country that maybe have only seen elephant seals once or twice in their lifetimes, or maybe not at all. So this is going to be sort of an introduction. I'm more of a guide and a storyteller rather than an expert on these. So if there's any question that I can't answer, I will contact my biologist friends and get the correct answer for you. So with that, let's get started with some special thanks. So I want to thank my photographer friend, Carlos Parada, who will be giving his own talk to the community center in a number of weeks. Carlos is a retired state park ranger at Tamaulipas Bay State Park, who now spends most of his days in what he calls church, and that's the Point Reyes National Seashore. So you'll often see Carlos out there with the camera, and he's given me a few of the nicer photos that I used tonight. The ones that aren't nice are probably taken by me. And I'd also like to give a shout out to my friend Faith Rum, who is an artist based here in Mariposa, who's done interpretive panels for agencies all across the United States, including state parks. And she did the interpretive panels on elephant seals at Piedras Negras rookery down the coast from us, and lent me some of the artwork from those panels for tonight's show. And then last but not least, I want to give a shout out to the Winter Wildlife Docent program at Point Reyes National Seashore. A number of people, including Mike Warren and Rudy Dundas and Jim, are involved in that program. And if it wasn't for COVID, you could go out to Drake's Beach or Chimney Rock and have somebody in a red vest help you enjoy the seal safely and learn quite a bit about their lifestyle and ecology. So I'm going to, since we've called this the amazing secrets of elephant seals, I'm going to just start listing some of the secrets. And secret number one is they're not dead. I don't know how many times when I've been out there as a docent or doing other volunteer work for the Park Service, people have come up to me and said, "Is that seal dead?" And if we weren't there, they would probably think it was dead and go up and kick it, which never do that. And so they're not dead, they're just not breathing. And I volunteer at an event where we're not allowed to say we found someone dead on the radio. If we come across someone as a first responder that we think might be dead, we say we've got someone that's not breathing and unconscious. And so by that standard, you would think these elephant seals are dead, but the majority of the time that they're on shore, and these big males are going to be on shore for like 3 months, they're not breathing. They're holding their breath and lowering their heart rate for 20 minutes, half an hour at a time. And then they wake up, take a few breaths, and then go back to sleep. So what looks like a dead animal on the beach is really a living elephant seal that has big teeth and can move a lot faster than you think. So don't poke it with a stick. So the whole time elephant seals are hauled out at Point Reyes, they're not eating or drinking. And so these big males are going to be there for up to 3 months, and the females a month or more. So during that period, it's really crucial that they conserve their moisture and their energy stores. And every time you breathe, you're exhaling moisture. Like when on a cold day, when you breathe, you'll see vapor when you give a breath. And so they don't want to lose that vapor. And that's why they're using this special response that I'm going to tell you more about later on in the talk to save their energy and their breath. The other thing is they're fat and they're hot. So they arrive here coming from the subarctic regions, and they have 12 to 14 inches of blubber, and they're hauled out on the beach, and we could be there in our down jackets, but they're actually overheated. So you'll often see the elephant seals flipping sand on their back to stay cool. Okay, now we're going to jump right into the good stuff, the birth and the sex on the beach. So I'll try to keep this G-rated for any youngsters in the crowd. So right about now, big males are arriving. They generally come in December, and they're there to stake out their territory. And elephant seals have a characteristic called sexual dimorphism. That means the males and the females have a different physiology. The big males grow the characteristic elephant seal nose by the time they're about 7 years old, the probiscus. And they also have developed a chest shield. That's from the time a male is just months old. He's been engaging in mock battles with other males and building up scar tissue on their chest, which will you'll see how they put that to use later on here. And the males are much larger than the females. They're twice as large, weigh twice as much. So a big male might weigh anywhere from 3,600 pounds to 5,400 pounds. Usually the biggest ones we see at Point Reyes would be in the 4,000 pound range. So males attempt to establish dominance over the other males through threats, vocalizations, and lunging. If you're ever out on the beach, you'll hear this very characteristic deep throated sound that they make. And I would try to make it now, but I wouldn't be able to talk through the rest of the presentation. But that another male listens to that and thinks, oh my goodness, the guy that made that has a bigger chest capacity than I have. I'm not going to challenge him. And another way to challenge someone is to raise yourself up on your front flippers, raise your head, and that says, hey, I think I'm the top guy here. And so if you're ever on the beach and you see one guy do that and vocalize, you'll see all the other alpha males raise up and vocalize as well. So lunging comes as, you're trying to just let the other person mean you're not kidding around. You're going to start moving towards them. And if you get two alpha males that don't back down on the basis of vocalizations and threats and lunging, then you get a really bloody battle. And that's where these chest shields that I told you about. The bloody part on the chest you're seeing on these two guys. These are two probably around 4,000, 4,500 pound males right in front of the Ken Patrick Visitor Center on Drake's Beach. It looks like they're really hurting each other, and I'm sure it does hurt, but that chest shield is made up of scar tissue and cornified calluses. So you could rip into that and you're not really getting towards any vital organs. Plus you got a lot of blubber underneath it. But this one guy has had his probiscus torn by the other person's flesh. Battles could range up and down the beach, but one of the things that slows or stops a battle is these guys are so fat that they overheat. And a few years ago, some researcher was at Point Reyes with a thermographic camera, and she photographed elephant seal movement and in particular battles between males. And you would see as they started to engage in a fight, they would immediately go white hot and they would fight for a few minutes and then they were just too hot to continue. So both of them would drop down in the sand and you would see the blood gets pumped out to the skin to cool off. And after a number of minutes went by and they cooled off enough, they would get back up and resume their fight. So eventually, one of the seals gives up, lays down, and moves away from the winner's territory. And I often see elephant seals out there that have what I call loser wounds. The one male that's chasing off the loser decides to give him a couple nips on the fanny to just make sure they understand they've lost and don't come back. So after the male has established some territory, he doesn't, it's not the male that attracts the females. The males try to dominate the territory where they think the females are going to arrive. And they usually do that based on where females arrived in the past. So the females go, and the female's looking for a safe spot to give birth, and it has to be relatively sheltered because when babies are born, they can't swim. That's unlike a harbor seal, which might actually be born in the water. It can swim with its mom right from birth. An elephant seal pup can't swim. So if it's born on a beach that gets swept by big waves later on, the pups get swept out to sea and drowned. And every once in a while, when we have an El Nino year with really big storms, we have a high pup mortality where the storms bring the waves in and sweep the pups away and they don't make it. So the key is that the males establish this cool part of real estate that the females want to come to. The females arrive, and now he's going to have a chance to mate with all these females. So when the females arrive, they come pregnant, having gotten pregnant the year before. And within a few days of arrival, they give birth to a single pup that's got black fur. It's 3 to 4 feet long, and weighs 60 to 70 pounds. And the reason for the black fur is that although the adults have all this blubber and they're light colored to reflect the sun, the newborn pup doesn't have any blubber at that moment. And so the black fur helps it stay warmer with the sunlight. And I just mentioned the difference between the females and the males here. The female doesn't have the probiscus, doesn't have the elephant seal nose. There's no chest shield, and they're much smaller than males, like 1,200 to 1,800 pounds tops. So if you're ever out at Chimney Rock or at any elephant seal rookery, and you'll see all these pregnant elephant seals on the beach. And it's really hard to tell when they're going to give birth. So you could watch for 20 minutes and get bored and turn away, and then a birth happens. But those of us that spend a lot of time out there have learned that when you see a bunch of seagulls all of a sudden appear, that means a birth is imminent. And we suspect that the seagulls just tune in on the fact that the female is starting to be fidgety in some way that we don't notice. But the reason they're showing up is that they want to eat the afterbirth after the baby's born. So this is a newborn baby right over here, and see gulls eating the afterbirth. So the pup's born at 60 pounds, and within about 24 to 35 days, it gains or grows to 250 to 300 pounds. And during that time, the mom's nursing them, she's not eating or drinking, just like all the other adult seals that haul out aren't eating or drinking. So she's lost 40% of her body weight, metabolizing her blubber to create the milk that the babies are drinking. And I think human milk is about 5% butterfat. Elephant seal milk at certain times during the nursing period reaches around 50% butterfat. It's almost like eating yogurt or cottage cheese. So at the time she gets to 40% of her body weight, she's got to return to the sea to avoid starvation. So she abandons the pup, and it's weaned by abandonment. Unlike other seals that might stay with the pup for the first year, teach it how to swim, how to avoid predators, elephant seal pups aren't lucky. So mating takes place, mating takes place shortly before or after the pup is weaned. And the male knows which females have gone to estrus. And sometimes they don't care whether the female's in estrus. They'll try to mate with a female before she's ready, and she'll fight them off. Or they'll try to mate with some juvenile that isn't even of the correct sex, but the testosterone on the beach really starts getting high. So weaned pups are in danger of being attacked by subadult males or even adult males that might mistake them for females. So they move away from the harem, and they try to move further inland if they can. And they generally congregate in groups that we refer to as weaner pods. And weaners, are like big fat sausages. They've gotten so fat from their mom's milk in that 24 or 35 days, but they're gonna stay on shore for another 8 to 12 weeks. And for the first 6 weeks, they're afraid to go in the water. The first week or two, they're just screaming for their mom to come and feed them, but the mom's already left. But eventually they start going out into the water a little bit at night, and then come back, and then they'll swim out and try to explore other beaches. And that's when you'll start to hear about weaners showing up in a parking lot in San Francisco or somewhere strange, like in a culvert in Mill Valley, and the Marine Mammal Center has to come and rescue them. And sometimes weaners even venture into the Drake's Beach parking lot. You have to thank Valley artist Robert Bloomberg for capturing this unique wiener. But aside from the joke there, they actually do come into the parking lot sometimes and have to be removed so that they don't get hit by a car. Okay, so this might be a good time to take a break for any questions. Anything come up in the chat window? I'm going to stop the share for a second. Howie? Hello?
I lost myself. Find myself.
Find yourself.
Here, I got a question from Nora, and she says, I've seen newborns crushed by the adult male on the beach in the cove by the pier in Chimney Rock. How often does this happen? And how many pups are lost because of crushing each year?
Okay, so pre-weaned pup mortality varies year to year. And that's an unfortunate thing that happened. The males don't care about the babies. They don't know whose father that baby was. Even if it was theirs, they wouldn't know, and they don't care. All they're concerned about is getting their DNA in the gene pool again and mating with the female that when she becomes receptive. So they will go after a female and go right over the pup. And if the pup is on soft sand, it can usually survive being run over by a 4,000-pound male. But if it's on a hard surface, it might be crushed. But the percentage that die that way are relatively a small number. So when you have a big rookery with 450, 600 pups, you might see 2 or 3 that have died for some reason, and we assume it's being crushed by a big male. A more likely way that they get crushed by the big male is that when the females go into estrus and the testosterone is really high, at the edge of all the harem are all these beta bulls and lurking bulls. They're going to try to sneak in and mate with one of the females. And so the beach master has to fight those challenges off. And so you'll see a big bull come up on the water, from the water onto the edge of the beach, and give a threat, raise its head and trumpet. And then the beach master trumpets and makes a running lunge for it. And in doing so, will just run right over females and babies. It's a tough life, but enough pups survive that the species is actually increasing. A more likely way to lose pups, though, is when we have big winter storms that will sweep into an area that normally doesn't get big surf. Or you'll get an inexperienced mom that arrives on an area of beach. A less experienced mom might go to a beach where there's already a lot of females, and the females are sort of territorial. They don't have big battles like the males have, but they will nip at other females and try to say, get away from my baby or my space. And so that inexperienced younger mom might cruise on down the beach and see an area where there's no seals. And the reason there aren't is that that area gets big waves when a storm comes. So they could come ashore, be there for 4 or 5 days, give birth, everything's fine for a week or two until a big storm hits. And then the waves are gonna sweep the baby out to sea and either drown it or wash it back up, but far enough away from the mom that as soon as the mom loses its baby, it calls for a while. And if the baby doesn't answer, it goes, I'm out of here. And she'll go out to sea, and then the baby starves to death down the beach. Any other questions?
Yes. Big Dave has a question. When do the pups begin to eat after they are weaned, and what do they eat?
So that is a good question. I'm I'm not that familiar as to what fish the pups start eating. I mean, I've seen them out after 8 weeks going out into ever deeper water, and they'll be grabbing seaweed in their mouth and various things. So I'm assuming they're trying to eat any fish they could catch right there. But as they get bigger and they go away from shore out to the deeper ocean, then they're going to be chasing rockfish, squid, basically anything they could catch. The adult seals are more likely to be eating fish that are found at great depth, which could be squid, hake, dogfish. But on the continental shelf, they would eat salmon, any fish of opportunity. Okay, so I see Julie Young says, do other mothers ever adopt a pup? So that's a good question. And the answer is sad both ways. Most moms will not adopt another pup. And you'll see the poor pup trying to get milk from another mom, a pup that's been orphaned, got separated from its mom, and the mom left. And now that pup is going from nursing mom to nursing mom, begging and screaming for food. And the mother is nipping at it, chasing it away until it starves to death. And that's very sad. The even more sad thing is when you see a mom that has very strong maternal instincts and will take in the second pup. And then she's nursing both her pup and the new pup. And unfortunately, because she only has so much body weight, and when she gets down to 40% of her body weight, she's metabolized all of her available blubber. And if she stays longer, she would start to metabolize protein, which is what happens when you starve to death. So she has to leave when she's lost that amount of weight. And both pups haven't gotten enough nutrition. They're still alive when she leaves, but they often don't survive the 8 to 12 week weaner fast. So it's, you just hope that the pup doesn't get orphaned. And that's why one of the things we can do just as visitors is to stay well away from any part of the beach where there are moms with nursing pups. The males we might disturb and they're going to move somewhere, and it's not good that they got disturbed. They've used up some of their energy and water. But females, if they get disturbed and they run into the water and they lose their pup, somebody's going to die because of it. So any other questions?
That kind of answers, I think the next was just Dave was asking about if rangers or docents, if they see a pup at risk, if they would ever approach it or intervene on any level.
That's a good question. So the policy of the National Park Service is to let natural systems take their course. That within the rookery, in the area where the seals are giving birth and everything, we generally don't intervene unless we see a seal with some sort of human caused problem, like tangled in fishing gear, for instance. Then we sort of feel that's a human caused thing, so it's going to be a human solution to it. But if a pup is in distress, been injured by a male or whatever, we don't go in and try to rescue it. It's a little bit different if a weaner ends up on a beach in front of a motel in Inverness and is in distress. Then the Marine Mammal Center will come out and rescue that wiener and nurse it back to health with fish milkshakes at their facility and eventually release it at Chimney Rock. And that's sort of controversial. I mean, I understand why they're rescuing the seals, but a biologist might take we look at survival of the whole species versus what's happening with individuals. So maybe there are certain individuals that you don't want bad genes to be passed on. If elephant seal pup isn't able to fend for itself, maybe those aren't the genes that you want to continue on. But when you're looking at this cute little animal that's in distress, it's hard not to want to help it. So, other questions?
Not right now. I'm not seeing anything else that just came in.
Okay, well, let's go back to the.
There was a question about the purpose of the proboscis.
Oh, I'm not going to venture too much on that because they're still finding out a lot about elephant seals. We think there are all these chambers in there. We think the proboscis does a couple things. It helps with the resonating when you're vocalizing. If you could vocalize a lot, you don't have to fight the others. Because if you have a stronger vocalization, that keeps you from having to fight. The challengers hear that and they go, I don't want to mess with somebody that could vocalize that way. So that's one thought, is that it aids vocalization. Another thought is that it also aids conservation of moisture, because the males, unlike the females, are going to be hauled out for almost 3 months. Fasting, not eating or drinking. So as they breathe, all those little chambers in the nose have a chance to gather water that's being exhaled and recycle it back into the body. But there may be other reasons for it that we haven't yet determined. Anything else? Okay, let's go on to some other cool stuff. Whoop, wrong, there we go. Okay. Whoops. So another secret is that you'll never see an elephant seal on Pier 39, on a Pier 39 dock. And I don't know how many times when I'm out volunteering as a docent, visitors come up to me and say, oh, we've seen these guys at Pier 39. We just saw them a few days ago. And I go, nope, you didn't see these guys at Pier 39. That's a different union. But the actual reason is elephant seals can't climb up onto the docks at Pier 39 because they lack an articulated hip. So if you look at the diagram there of the sea lion, you see it's got an articulated hip. It could walk on like four flippers, the equivalent of walking on 4 legs. True seals like the elephant seal and the harbor seal don't have that hip. They, on shore, they have to drag themselves with their front flippers. So you see this poor mass of fat over here that's just trying to drag himself along with the front flippers. Their body is actually very efficient in the water, more efficient than the sea lions, because that back, their back flippers and their whole body undulates in a way that makes for very fast underwater locomotion, but not good for climbing up on rocks, on piers. And that limits the areas where they can haul out. they need flat beaches for haul outs. And that's why the elephant seals are hard at work trying to colonize or recolonize the beach in front of the Ken Patrick Visitor Center at Drake's Beach, much to the chagrin of people that use the beach for other purposes, and some of the authorities that would have to rework their entire recreation plan if the seals take over. By the way, this is a good way to see on this guy's chest shield. You see all these little recent scars, and on his nose from battles. So another secret is that elephant seals lead a double life. Most of the time, different age groups and different genders of elephant seals are going to be absent from Point Reyes. You could walk down Drake's Beach at certain times, and through vast areas of the beach, you'll never see an elephant seal. And the reason for that is that they spend most of their life out at sea, that the females are spending 300 days a year at sea, and the males are, spending about 260 days at sea. So the females are, they go in different directions from the males. They're all going to search for food, but where most of the food is, or the easiest to get food, is along the continental shelf. And so the males go that way. The females don't go that way because they don't want to be eaten by orcas and great white sharks that are more prevalent along the continental shelf. So females go out to deeper water in the open North Pacific. And the seals return to Point Reyes twice a year. Come ashore in the wintertime to give birth and mate, and then different age groups and different genders come at other parts of the year to molt. They live in such cold water in the North Pacific and along the Aleutian Islands that if they tried to molt to have new fur come in, it'd be too cold for them. And all mammals are constantly losing hair and growing new hair, but they do a catastrophic molt. So if you look at this lower picture here of all those male elephant seals grouped together, that's during the molt later on, usually in the summer or the fall. And they haul out, and with a very short period of time, all their skin just peels off. They look like Anglo tourists in Mexico that got too much sunburn and are having a massive peel. And where they have molted, you'll find little bits of elephant seal fur scattered along the beach. So, we always think about the really long migration that gray whales make from the Arctic waters down to the birthing lagoons in Baja. And that's a pretty impressive migration, but elephant seals do that type of journey twice a year. So in total, their migration is greater than any other mammal on the planet. The females are journeying over 11,000 miles, and the males travel around 13,000 miles. You see in this is a diagram where they put trackers, satellite tracking devices, glued to the heads of various elephant seals, and then track them on their migration. And the yellow is where the females went, the red is where the males went. So another cool secret about elephant seals is that they dive way deeper than submarines. Probably a lot of you have seen these World War II movies where the German submarine or American submarine is trying to avoid depth charges, and they have to settle down on the bottom, and you watch their depth gauge go. And when it gets to around, 480 feet, like 160 meters, all of a sudden you hear all this creaking, and then pipes start to burst and water's like coming into the boat. And if it gets below 480 feet, then the whole boat just might implode from the vast pressures down there. And even modern day submarines, like the operational depth for a nuclear submarine is around 800 feet. And so you go deeper than that, unless you're in one of those special research submersibles, you're in real danger of being crushed by the immense water pressure. But elephant seals dive way deeper than that. So they regularly dive to 1,200, 1,500 feet, and they've been recorded as diving as deep as a mile, over a mile. Miles about 5,280 feet, and they've been recorded as deep as 5,500 feet. And the longest recorded dive is 1 hour and 43 minutes. So most of the time that elephant seals are at sea, and especially when they're, hey, Nancy Sharp, there's my cousin Nancy, I'm saying hello to. When they're at sea, they're not traveling along the surface. Like a gray whale is migrating, it's traveling along the surface, and it might do shallow dives, but you could, track it up and down the coastline. But if you were an elephant seal, one, you wouldn't find a lot to eat there, and two, you'd be susceptible to predation. So they travel by the series of really deep dives, and that typically underwater for 20 minutes to half an hour, but as I say, it could be up to 1 hour and 43 minutes. They come up to the surface, exhale, or excuse me, not exhale, get a few breaths of oxygen, exhale, and then dive again. And they think that they go into a sort of apnea as they dive. So, when we're swimming and we're going to dive down, we always take a breath, fill our lungs with oxygen. Well, if elephant seals did that, the vast pressure would crush those their lungs. So they exhale, and they're storing their oxygen and the hemoglobin in their blood. And they've done some really cool studies now that they have little microprocessors that they could glue to elephant seal bodies, and see that when they start, if you look at this one chart at the very top there, that's the elephant seal comes to the surface, oxygenates its blood in just a few minutes, and then dives down. And as they dive down, they're depleting their oxygen and hemoglobin. And they could tolerate oxygen depletion that would kill a human or most other mammals. So that's one of the secrets to their diving. And they also think they sleep during their dives. They just, shut down their heart rate, lower their heart rates, shuttle all their blood to their internal organs, and just drift down into the depths. And when they get down to a certain depth of, say, around 1,200 feet, there's vast quantities of food down there that nobody else is eating. They're going to places where great white sharks can't go, where other marine mammals, with the exception of maybe a sperm whale, never get that far. So they could just gorge while they're down there. And that's why you see these foraging dives. They're down at the certain depth, and they're moving laterally at that depth, and then they come up. And a transit dive looks more like a big V. So they use those same diving adaptations to survive the long haul outs, where I mentioned at the start of the presentation that they're hauled out and they're not eating or drinking the entire time, and they're often not breathing. So just like when they stop breathing to do a long dive, they use that adaptation on shore, hold their breath, slow their heart rate, slow their metabolism. And that allows you to use the very least amount of energy unless some clueless visitor comes up and pokes you with a stick, and then you've wasted some of that energy. So this is a secret. I want to give a shout out to Mexico, because it was Mexico, not the United States, that saved our elephant seals. In the 1800s, after the whalers killed all the whales, and there was still a huge market for whale oil. That was before petroleum really took off. So they used whale oil for lighting. They used it for industrial lubricants, for harness oil, all sorts of things. So the whales were all gone, and they go, wow, look at all these elephant seals. And they're just laying there on the beach. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. And so they, up and down the California coast, whalers just wiped out all the elephant seals. And by about 1880, they thought elephant seals were extinct. Nobody saw them. And then somebody discovered that there was one colony left on this remote island, Guadalupe Island, off the coast of Baja California. They didn't know how many were there, but then that population was nearly hunted to extinction, not by whalers, but by, I'm going to go back to, this is actually the guy with a gun, the shooting that bull, is not a whaler. He's from some museum in the United States. And the Cal Academy Sciences was also guilty of this. They flocked down there to get specimens of this rare, incredible creature that they could stuff and put in a museum. And so the last remaining ones were in danger of being killed by museum scientists. And in 1922, Mexico said no more hunting of elephant seals for any purpose. And with that, the population began to slowly recover. And as it recovered, they started to recolonize their previous range, moving, northward to the Channel Islands and Piedras Blancas, near San Simeon, Año Nuevo Island, and then to Año Nuevo Beach, and then to the Farallon Islands. And then some elephant seals from the Farallon Islands came over to Point Reyes, initially just a few males, but in 1981, the first breeding pair of elephant seals returned to Point Reyes, and they had the first pup born out at the headlands. Unfortunately, the mom pupped in an area that wasn't really good when a storm came, and that pup was swept out to sea and drowned. But more females came in subsequent years, and that colony started to grow, and then they started to spread out to more suitable beaches where there's a better chance of pup survivability, like on Drake's Beach, North Drake's Beach, and around Chimney Rock. So by last year's breeding season, almost 2,400 elephant seals were recorded at Point Reyes. That includes pups that were born there. So it's probably no surprise that elephant seals face a dangerous life. Great white sharks patrol the waters adjacent the Point Reyes haul-out sites. Now, if you're when elephant seals leave the shoreline at Point Reyes, they travel individually, which makes it very hard for predators to find them. It's, the ocean's a big place. If you're a great white shark trying to find one out in the open sea, it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. You'd use more energy trying to find one than you'd get by the occasional one you might catch. But they've learned that if they just patrol around the headlands here, all the elephant seals have to come past them to get to the beach. And then they got to go past them again when they leave. And the researchers have tagged some of those elephant seals, some of those great white sharks, and you look at their patterns, they seem random, but when you overlay all those different patterns, it's quite a gauntlet for the elephant seals to avoid. And the more experienced elephant seals learn how to avoid them. And so they have a higher success rate of returning each year, the older you get. But weaned pups are sort of clueless. And so 50% of weaned pups don't survive their first year. We're not sure what happens to them. They don't come back. So we assume that most of them were lost to either predation or they just weren't able to find enough food to eat and they starved out at sea. Orcas are another big predator of elephant seals, and they tend to, there's a transient pod of orcas that moves up and down the Oregon, California coast, and they hunt along the continental shelf. And so male elephant seals are more in danger of those pods. And the females go way out to sea in the North Pacific and don't run in danger with those predators. So humans are another danger for elephant seals. Human debris, especially discarded fishing gear, plastic litter, plastic bags that look like squid that could be ingested by elephant seals, trash of all kinds, especially along the shoreline. Storms mobilize the debris like an old tire like that and could clunk a elephant seal. An old bit of a dock, wooden dock, could get mobilized during a storm and be a lethal projectile. And so human debris kills or injures marine mammals a lot. This is a case of a seal that hauled out at Chimney Rock, and it had, at some point in its life, had gotten a bit of fishing rope wrapped around its neck. And as it kept growing, it started to cut into the neck. And this is a case where the biologist interceded, tranquilized the seal, and painstakingly and carefully cut away the rope that was slowly cutting into its neck. And it was left with this, initially a big wound there, but it's since healed, and that seal came back a following year with just a scar there, so it's doing okay. So human disturbance on land puts stress on elephant seals that need to conserve their moisture and energy. And you'll often hear people say, in fact, the laws might have regulations about how far you need to stay away from marine mammals. They'll say like 100 feet. Well, harbor seals, 100 feet is way too close. You could flush a harbor seal from half a mile away. Elephant seals, especially the big males, may not care if you walk fairly close to them. Females and pups are a different story. But we say rule of thumb, we used to say, try to stay 30 feet away, and people have a hard time of deciding what 30 feet is. So if you err on the side of at least 2 car lengths away, and that's talking about males that are hauled out. If there's a female hauled out with a pup, please stay hundreds of feet away. So my closing message would be, stay safe. Remember that the seals look like they're just laying there, but they've got a lot of teeth, they bite, and they're faster for a short period of time than you might think. And you don't want to stress them by having them move because of you. And there'll be certain parts of the beach at Point Reyes that have to be closed because there are females with pups there. And those animals are a lot more susceptible to disturbance. If you disturb a mom and she leaves a pup, then as we said before, the pup may perish. So any other questions?
I just want to say thank you so much, Frank. This has been amazing.
That was great, Frank. I do have a couple questions though, if you don't mind answering them.
I don't mind them. I'm on the downhill slide here.
All right, come on, let's go. So Nora asked a question. How closely related are the southern elephant seals in Argentina to the northern ones? Could they crossbreed if they were in the same latitude?
You know, that's a good question with crossbreeding. Probably they could. And I've read different articles. As I say, I'm not the expert. I just listen to the experts, and sometimes I get confused by different things over the years. But my understanding is that the divergence of the two species happened at least thousands of years ago, and maybe back in the Pleistocene. If you had some sort of condition where you could bring a male and female together, who knows if they would mate, but they're separated by so many thousands of miles of ocean that that's not going to happen naturally. And the southern elephant seal is actually larger than the northern elephant seal. They don't have to migrate as far between feeding zones and in their haul out areas. And the one factor in them being larger may be because where they haul out, it's colder. They think a limiting factor for the northern elephant seal for size is that the big males, the bigger the male, the better the chance of winning the battle to have a harem and leave your DNA in the gene pool. But the big size works against you in a warmer climate because you overheat. So as climate change comes, we may see elephant seals actually getting smaller, at least in the northern population.
I got one more from Julie. And she says, is the diving adaptation kind of a bear in hibernation?
Gosh, Dr. Bittinger, do you know about that one? I am not going to take a stab at that because I would probably tell you the wrong thing.
Sorry, I can't answer that either.
All right.
Okay.
Anything else, anyone?
Can I ask, it's too long to type. It's Dave, Frank.
Yeah.
This time last year, I think it was between Christmas and New Year's, Howie and I took a long walk south from Lemontour Beach. I think we got pretty close to Coast Camp, and there was a male there.
Yeah.
So it was miles and miles away from the Drake's or Chimney Rock. How did that end up there? And would the females even know to go?
Yeah. So the males generally are the pathfinders when the range is expanding, is that they, the area where most of the harems are is limited real estate, and it gets controlled by a beach master. So you could be a big male and you go and you try to come ashore there, and you get chased off. You either get in a big battle and get chased off, or you get intimidated by the vocalizations and chased off. And then you haul out somewhere else. And you're sort of just genetically programmed to come to the haul out, the birthing, mating haul out every year at the same time. So you find a section of beach where you're not going to be bothered. and you haul out there, and you might try a different strategy, which is in the middle of the night, go back in the water, swim all the way back up to where the main harem is, and try to sneak ashore and not get caught, and mate with somebody before the beach master notices you. Or after the female has mated with the beach master and goes out to sea, when she's in the shallow water before she gets very far, you could be lurking out there in the shallows and try to mate with her there and be the last person with DNA and her uterus. And so those males that were hauled out in these, down near Double Point or at the south end of Lemantour, they're ones that weren't successful in getting the real estate where they knew females were coming to. But within a couple of years, if males keep going to the same place and females see that, wow, there's a lot of males there, it must be safe for me to come ashore, the females might move there as well. And that's how the ranges get expanded. So I think if we talk to the Elephant Seal Central Command, they would say they've got their eyes on all of the sheltered coastline of Drake's Bay. The Park Service is looking and thinking, we've got to balance recreational needs with elephant seal needs. So they're probably not happy about the idea of elephant seals expanding too much further, but I think there's a lot of space for them around Drake's Beach.
Oh, Diana Olson just threw a question out at you. 20 years ago, I picked up a small sliver of molted fur at Año Nuevo. Are the park police going to come and get me? Seriously, just wondering if that's illegal.
Well, the park police probably aren't going to come and get to you, but technically, it's not the park police. It's a federal law. The Marine Mammal Protection Act makes it illegal to possess any parts of a marine mammal. And the reason for that law is they don't want people to start a trade in, baby elephant seal pelts and elephant seal bones and elephant seal teeth that might cause people to actually harm a marine mammal to make that trade worthwhile. So the technical answer is it's illegal to have that little bit of fur without a research permit. As docents at Point Reyes, we carry that fur to let people feel it, but the park has a permit from the right authorities to do that. But I would say it's a very low priority on the wildlife police to come after you for that.
This is she replied, shoot, I'll have to disassemble my scrapbook, but willing to do so.
I wouldn't worry about it.
Here's one from Kestrel. Is there an Oregon location where elephant seals also appear, or somewhere north of the Point Reyes National Seashore?
They do appear around the mouth of the Russian River.
Yeah.
And I don't know about haul out sites above that. Or any of the other wildlife docents on the chat want to fill in on that? Rudy or Mike Warren?
There was that one rogue elephant seal who actually attacked people at the Russian River outlet a few years back. He was a little bit, but that was unusual. That's all I've heard of, though, myself.
Yeah. The reason they're coming this far south from the feeding grounds is they need a place where it's warm enough when the babies are born, because they don't have any fat, that they could survive until they build up some blubber. The same reason that you have the gray whales migrating all the way down to the lagoons in Baja California to give birth in the warmer water. Dr. Bittinger, were you trying to say something? Or?
No, I wish I knew more to help answer some questions, but you're out of my field.
Well, wait till I give a talk on speleology, or if we get into archaeology.
Yeah, I enjoyed your presentation. You did a good job. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Great job, Frank. Thank you so much. So great to have you with us, and always informative, and it's always nice having you with us. So thanks again.
It's been fun, and Rudy and Mike Warren and Jim, we would normally be going to training now in preparation to start being at Chimney Rock and Drake's Beach and the Lighthouse, and volunteering as winter wildlife docents to have spotting scopes out there and interpreting props, and be giving everybody the talk in person. But with COVID, our season's been canceled, as has Año Nuevo season for docents canceled. So we just have to do Zoom.
That was going to be my question, is if there was, for those people that are still on, if you have any favorite spots, or obviously socially distant and all of the right things, but a favorite place that you like to go for viewing, or just this time of year?
Are you talking about to see the elephant seals?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah. I think, and Frank, you should corroborate this, but I think the best place is Drake's Beach. But I'm a little hesitant to even encourage people to do that without docents there on the weekend. We're very concerned about the animals. People just don't understand that they're not dead and that they're not sleeping, and they get way too close, and it's very disturbing, and it's very dangerous, both for the seals and for the visitors.
A good spot that's safe for both the seals and the visitor, and where you can often see a lot of really neat things happen, is the elephant seal overlook. Accessible from the Chimney Rock parking lot, which right now is closed because of the repaving of Sir Francis Drake Boulevard. But when that's open, you'll be able to go there and look down, and you'll see harems, and you'll often see births happening, moms interacting with pups, battles between bulls. There's a lot that goes on there, and you're just right up above it. You're far enough away and above them so they're not bothered by you. And
the peak of the mating season and the height of the battles is February 14th. That's true.
Out on Valentine's Day and see some sex on the beach.
Exactly.
Pretty good.
That will be in the air. Well, thank you so much for that. Hopefully we can be able to drive in there by that point.
I hope so too. I just wanted to thank the San Geronimo Valley Community Center for organizing this, and also for Frank for giving his time. But thank you so much for giving this venue for Frank to share this really important information.
Thank you so much.
Well, that's what we're trying to do, is keep our, people connected to each other, to the community, to people who have the knowledge like Frank to share it with us. So we begin to know about these things and learn to respect what's going on. I mean, obviously, knowing that they're sleeping and they're not asleep, that's a really good thing to know. That's a really good thing to know. So, yeah, because you get down on there and there's, people are just going by. I'm not going anywhere near those big babies. Forget it.
I learned that lesson at a very safe distance many years ago. Didn't realize it was the time of year at all, and perhaps it was a little bit early, but went to South Beach during kind of a bad weather, stormy day, and there was one male on the beach. And I sat there probably for about 10 or 15 minutes just looking at him and not moving, and thought, huh, that same thought, is it dead? And fortunately for me, actually, the wind was coming towards him, so he smelled me coming a mile away and raised himself up. I was, you know, very, very far away from him still, but he definitely knew that I was coming near, and let me know that he was not asleep or dead, and that I was close enough. So I
Wild Kingdom moment.
Yeah, Wild Kingdom. Thanks,
learning lessons alone on South Beach.
So, well, this has been wonderful, and we have such a treasure with our community center there, and especially in this time of COVID needs. All the staff is working overtime with food bank help, and there are people that probably never thought they'd be going to a food bank at the community center are now counting on that. So, thank you a lot for that.
Thank you so much.
Now we
For joining us tonight. What do you want to say, Big Dave?
is
Button it up.
everybody's support, and we are going to be, unfortunately, in this COVID world for a little while longer, and so we're really committed to these virtual events, and you know, we're definitely getting our sea legs under us to put them on. You know, we of course much rather be in person, and but you know, we keep talking about you know, BC and AC, before COVID and after COVID, and really see in the after COVID world, which we hope comes sooner than later. But you know, I think, you know, we will be doing a lot more in person together, but there's also some wonderful benefits of these virtual events. And you know, tonight, you know, we had everywhere from Australia to Florida to do we have anybody from New York? So
Colorado, Frank's friend from Durango.
right, so it really was it really has opened our eyes to some incredible opportunities. So if anybody has something they'd like to present or share with the community, you know, please contact Julie or Howie. And we've got, you know, a lot of really great events planned in 2021, some history nights and book readings, and as Howie mentioned, Carlos Parada. I'm sure we'll get Frank back. Maybe we'll do something about caving. And so yeah, watch our website and our weekly updates. But it's great to see everybody through Zoom tonight. You know, thank you, Julie and Howie, for organizing this.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah. And especially all my friends from distant places. I really appreciate you dialing in, and I have so many caving friends on. As soon as we get our caving presentation going, we'll count on all of you to be part of that.
Absolutely.
You can definitely count on me being there. I'm sure so many people are going to be so interested in that presentation, Frank. I can't wait. Just give us a date. We'll be ready.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thanks again, everybody, for coming and visiting tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank.
Happy holidays,
Can't wait to see
everyone.
you all soon.
Thanks,
Happy
Howie.
holidays.
Dave,
Thank
Happy
you.
holidays.
Everyone, thank
Each
you.
other.
Good night,
Bye.
everyone.